This is Big Ray's Wrestling Show. You gotta know that when I flow, I put you in the lyrical Toho, recapping total non-stop action. I'm asking to check out the team and join our faction. I'm not a wrestler, writer, or actor. I don't have to. Coming at you strong with my man Bill Apter. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Big Ray's Wrestling Show. I am the Mark of the Masses, the man with the plan. Big Ray here today to talk with Peter Rosenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Rosenberg. Let's give a big hand. Peter Rosenberg is just me and you. It's nobody.
Oh.
It's nobody really here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk with Peter Rosenberg. He's known as the charismatic king of controversy, radio hip-hop superstar. What else? TV host.
Yes, TV host. Dog owner.
Dog owner.
Yep.
Above all, a lot of people don't know you're a big wrestling fan.
I am. I'm also a mark. I'm not the mark of the masses, but I'm a mark in the masses.
Well, there's only one mark of the masses.
Exactly.
And that's...
I know. I'm a mark of the masses.
You are a mark of the masses.
Yeah.
Well, tell the fans of OneWrestling.com who don't really know who you are. Tell us a little bit about Peter Rosenberg. Like, how does a Jewish guy from Washington D.C. become one of the biggest DJs in Hot 97, probably in hip hop in New York? How did you become such a big personality here in New York and in the hip hop world?
Well, I always wanted to do radio, and I always wanted to be in New York because my family's from here, and I've always spent a lot of time here. So I grew up listening to WBLS and Kiss FM, and later Funkmaster Flex and Hot 97, and started dreaming about it. And I set that vision really early, since the time I was a teenager, that I was going to do that. Went straight into college radio at University of Maryland, and just kind of busted my ass chasing it, man. And then between some hard work and good luck, ended up here and got a spot at my dream station. You know, it took a long time. I was on a lot of different stations first. Got fired from a lot of places.
Why did you get fired?
Talked some trash. You know, talked some trash in an interview. I did a shoot. You know, I was shooting in this interview about radio and music. And I said some stuff about DC radio. I was on the radio in DC at the time, and I said DC radio sucks.
That would probably do it.
Yeah, they didn't. It didn't reflect kindly, I guess. And so they let me go, but I just kind of kept popping back up, man. And I can't say there were never times where I started to think, oh, I'm getting off the path, but I sort of always believed it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I'm still that way now about my future endeavors.
And apparently, it did.
It did happen.
I mean, you are literally one of the biggest names in hip-hop today.
Yeah, I mean, you see how I'm living. There's nothing. It's nothing. You see how
I'm
a glamorous man. You know, I got pictures over there, a picture over there, I have a television set.
Ladies and gentlemen, he lives in a 15-story mansion.
Well, it's actually a 35-story mansion, but I'm only in one apartment on the 23rd floor. Right?
Well, I got a couple of questions. Me and Peter, we've talked quite a bit about wrestling. That's how we really got to know each other. Actually, the first time I met him, I'm not going to get into the details, but first time I met Peter, he was moving into this building, and the first thing I said, I didn't actually say anything to him. He was carrying his wrestling replica belts. I don't know if you remember that.
That's right. I do remember.
You were carrying wrestling replica belts, and a buddy of mine who knew who you were, he was horrified. He was looking at me, and I just take the belts from you. I put them, and I start playing with the spinner belt. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. And I had no idea who you were. I mean, I got to be honest.
You were just marking out for the belts.
Oh, my gosh. You know, and then we just started talking wrestling in the lobby. And then when you left, my friend, his name is Ozzy. I think you met him.
I have met Ozzy.
And Ozzy, he's like, Ray, do you know who this is? It's freaking Peter Rosenberg. And I'm like, who the hell's Peter Rosenberg?
I wish Ozzy still had that one.
And yeah, no. Ozzy, you're going to watch this, right, dude? Totally just... Anyway, doesn't really matter. But anyway.
That's how I connect with a lot of people. You know, some of the ways I connect best with people when we have a wrestling conversation. A lot of times this happens. They're artists that I have relationships with because of wrestling, and of course wrestlers that I have relationships with because of wrestling, and then friends and writers and all kinds of people. It's a very interesting and surprising network that a lot of people would never guess exists.
Well, that's going to lead me into one of the questions I really wanted to ask you. I think we had a conversation about this, but we never got in depth because we never had time. So, number one, what made you fall in love with wrestling? That's the first question. The second question is, you told me that you actually kind of fell out of love with wrestling. What brought you back?
Okay, well, what made me fall in love with wrestling was being around during, I truly have come to believe that you know, the Attitude Era was probably the most fun period in wrestling. And if you were a teenager at that time, it was probably the best period you could ever have in wrestling. But in terms of the excitement and the global explosion of wrestling, I think that I was a little kid through the best of that, which was 1987. You know, I mean, you're talking about WrestleMania 3, the year of WrestleMania 3.
Hogan slamming Andre.
Yeah, that to me, you know, I mean, there are a lot of records that are made up in wrestling and that they put over, but they're really garbage.
Right.
One of the only ones that's actually real is that indoor attendance record of 93,000.
93,000.
So, you know, that period was amazing. And so I was a huge fan then. Huge. I went to matches. I went to 2 shows in Landover, Maryland, at the Capitol Center, which is was a really big venue. You know, not a lot of people know this unless they're big nerds with wrestling, but Washington D.C.
Excuse me, which we all are.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so exactly. So most of you should know this. Washington D.C. is a huge market for the WWF because before Vince Sr. was based out of New York, they were based out of Washington for a time. They went down to Washington for a while. So there's a big history in the DC area with WWF, and it's a big market for it. And so I would go to those shows. This is well after that, but the lineage was still there.
Okay.
So I went to a card when I was a kid. I chose some pretty good ones. I'm not going to lie. I saw a card that was headlined by Hulk Hogan and Killer Khan.
Killer Khan.
Yeah.
Wasn't he managed by Mr. Fuji?
He was.
Very cool.
Even better though was I went to one that was headlined by Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat in a cage.
Yeah, dig it. Oh, that's actually that's my mother's favorite wrestler, Macho Man Randy Savage, if you guys didn't know.
Your mother has great taste because he's arguably the greatest of all time.
I think actually, if you don't mind, he's really underrated. I think Macho Man, I'm thinking about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Macho Man, I think, is probably the most underrated on the mic. I think for his size, he was able to hold a match with anyone.
Well, yeah, did I already give you my breakdown of this? This is now I do a wrestling series online called Wrestling with Rosenberg, and I've said this to a few people. I just said it in my Big Show interview.
Okay.
I give my very quick synopsis of why you can make the case that Randy Savage is the greatest wrestler of all time.
Okay.
Okay. Amazing on the mic, amazing in the ring.
Okay.
Amazing as a heel, amazing as a babyface.
I agree.
Could have a program with Andre the Giant. Could have a program with Ricky Steamboat. Any size. Makes no difference.
I agree.
So essentially, he did everything that you could possibly do in wrestling well.
You know who he kind of reminds me of nowadays, if we look at any wrestler nowadays? This is just my opinion. I mean, OneWrestling.com, it's really opinion-based. But CM Punk.
Well, I think there's a reason that Punk, well, you're right. Great babyface, great heel. Can have programs with people of any size.
Big Show.
Great in ring, great on the mic. Yes, and there aren't many people who can do that.
Punk.
The only thing that Punk hasn't done yet to the level of Savage.
Okay.
In terms of in the air, I'd say Savage was better.
Absolutely.
He was better in the air,
absolutely.
and more revolutionary for the time period.
Absolutely.
But also, Punk is yet to get as over as a babyface to the level that Macho Man was over as a babyface for a longer period of time. Punk had that few months where it was really big, but that was a limited moment in time. I mean, it was an epic moment.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
It was quick.
Right.
Macho Man, if you go back and watch, Macho Man was a huge babyface for several years after being a huge heel.
He was.
And up against Ricky the Dragon, who was a career babyface,
right,
which there aren't many of, career babyface, who was as babyface as you could get. And Macho Man was the evil heel against him, doing one of the most evil things for kids our age, that the trachea injury for Ricky Steamboat.
It was
one of the biggest heel things ever in that era. Oh yeah,
I cried.
It was horrible.
I'm a big guy, but I cry. I'm very sensitive. Aren't I sensitive?
He's a sensitive guy.
I'm a sensitive guy.
And that. So I think, but great point. Punk that's what makes Punk special. I think if you can put anyone in a conversation with the Macho Man Randy Savage is truly out of this world.
Well, then to follow up, I mean, you stopped watching wrestling for a while. I mean, why?
So why did I fall out? So I fell out because, I was super into it 87, 88, 89. That puts me at 10 years old. By the time I got to get to 11 years old, 90, I think I was still around in 90, 91. But by the time I got to middle school, which is a pretty typical age that a lot of people do fall out with wrestling, even though there was great stuff, going back, I got to be honest, I chose a pretty good time to get out. If you really look at 93, 94, 95, while there are moments that I love and still watch, grand scheme of things, it was a rough period. The early '90s, the early Raw shows, there's a lot of skipping around. But that's not why I got out of it, to be honest. It just is coincidental. Really, I just sort of grew out of it during that period, got really into sports and basketball and stuff. And, I just kind of moved on for a while.
But so what are you telling us? You're saying that Doink the Clown and
I know, it's ridiculous. How could I ever say
El Gigante? What was his name in the WWE?
Who the big
guy that wore the spandex with the Roman muscles?
Giant Gonzalez.
Giant Gonzalez.
I mean, yes, there were some horrible things that happened. WrestleMania 8 is the worst thing.
Worst WrestleMania.
I mean, it's god awful. So, but anyways, I was out for a while, and then fast forward. Now, keep in mind, during that period in which I was out of it, wrestling got so big that I would still jump back in because I knew it pretty well when I was a kid.
Right.
So even though I wasn't into it, I remember like WrestleMania in '96 or '97 rolled around. You know what I remember? I watched the old Lawrence Taylor. What was that? 10.
That was great. I
enjoyed that one.
Match.
So I was already out of it, but I still got that one.
Okay.
And then when I got to college, a lot of kids were super into Stone Cold and Rocky, so I would throw it on and see it. But it just wasn't. I was always amused by it, and I would make wrestling jokes and play wrestle with people, but I wasn't watching all the time. And that lasted all the way until 2005.
Okay.
ECW passed. Life went on. And in 2005, I started doing a talk radio show. When I started doing that talk radio show, they brought me as a guest. I believe the first guest they brought in was Taz and Michael Cole.
Okay.
So cool. Taz and Michael Cole came in.
This was in Washington?
Yeah. And by the way, you should go find the audio. If you ever want to hear an awkward interview and hear Michael Cole get angry and really aggressive and bitter, our first interview, him and I just did not get along. Click. And I wasn't into wrestling at that point, so I was talking about himself like he was great. I was like, fam, you're a wrestling commentator. Chill out. And now it's like I would dream to do that.
Oh, no kidding.
And at the time, I was going after him. And here's the thing about Cole. Taz, who's a tough dude, is a teddy bear.
Okay.
Michael Cole has gotten, I think, trash talked so much over the years that he's got a little bit of an edge to him.
He's getting a little weight also.
And he's gotten bigger. Him and I went at it. So we had an unpleasant time, him and I, but it ended up being a funny interview. We had a rapport, and me, Taz, and Michael Cole ended up being buddies. So much so that Taz was really trying to get into radio at the time. And him and I
remember he had I think was it XM or Sirius at the time?
He had a tryout in many places. He would pop up here and there. He did some XM.
He did something in New York.
Yes, he did a tryout on the same station I did a tryout on. He did a tryout on K-Rock when it switched to talk.
Right. I remember they had it was all talk all the time. They had Opie and Anthony.
Taz wanted us to work together, which I'm very flattered by, and he really thought I was pretty good, and I appreciate that. He saw me pretty early and thought I was good, so I appreciate that. But I had a partner at the time, and I was just like, he's my guy. He wasn't that experienced. Taz's name was bigger. Maybe some really good things could have come from it, but my guy was my guy. Right. And so we ended up not, and Taz. We continued to talk for a while, and then sort of faded out. But that's what got me back. Once Taz and Michael Cole came up, then I remember the next one was I ended up getting a phone with Bobby Heenan. Then I interviewed Booker T and Sharmell, and then just started kind of snowballing. And I started doing more and more interviews.
That actually kind of leads me into my next question. Being in the business, in the entertainment business, and having such a high, I guess we would say your status is,
I would call it credible. That's it.
I would say a little more than credible, but you're able to actually connect with people that I would only dream about actually connecting with. Actually, I think you mentioned in your last interview with Jerry the King Lawler that you were actually really close friends with Mark Henry. Mm-hmm. And I remember I actually had the pleasure of actually meeting him, and I hope I'm not going to blow him up, but he's a really cool guy.
He's the coolest.
He is just a really intimidating as all hell. Huge, scary looking, but a really nice guy.
He's the world's biggest babyface in real life.
He is, and
that's what makes him such a great worker and performer. Is that his real life persona?
Right.
A lot of people, it reflects who they are. Well, Mark does have a tough side. I wouldn't mess with him. Don't get me wrong. But as far as how he is day to day meeting people,
right? He's
as big a babyface as you get. Nicest guy in the world.
He has like that $1 million smile.
Yeah, oh yeah, he does.
He does. He has a really nice smile. That sounds kind of creepy and weird.
It sounded creepy and weird, but I know what you meant. He's a very friendly guy.
Yeah, he's a very friendly guy. So I have two quick questions for you. Number one, what are some of your more good? No, give me one really good experience with meeting someone? And can you give me a negative experience with meeting someone? I know you just spoke about Michael Cole, but like interview-wise, you met the guy and you really liked him a lot. Watching him for years, and you met the guy. And it's like,
yeah, I'll give you. I got you. I didn't think I had one, but I do.
Okay.
I have a ton of positive experiences meeting people. I've had tremendous interviews with pretty much the best current and past. The last 20 years. I mean, I've had Brett, Sean, Hulk, John Cena, Rocky, Punk, Lawler, Jericho. I've had Mark. I've had an experience with a lot of the best, and they're by and large really positive experiences, and many of which turned into, in the case of good friends, I have a couple good friends.
Right.
People I really call my good friends.
Okay.
But I have good relationships with many, many wrestlers that are wonderful and warm and really appreciative of sort of my interest and how much I kind of publicize wrestling and how much I publicize them. So most positive, I mean,
let's start with the negative first.
Let's start negative?
Yeah, let's start with the negative.
Most negative, and it wasn't even that bad.
Okay.
It's just that it's very surprising. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone really say it. And I don't care to not say it, because if I ever talk to him and interview him and it turns out that I got a bad impression, I would love to see that I was wrong.
Okay, very cool.
But in person, the same way Mark Henry is the exact opposite of his character, this person is the opposite of his wrestling character.
Okay.
Good old JR Jim Ross.
Really?
Yeah.
When
I met him at a WrestleMania party, I mean, when you see him, you can tell he doesn't want to talk to you. And then when you talk to him, you can tell he doesn't want to talk to you. I'm
a little disappointed.
Well, that's the thing. Of course you are. It's good old JR.
It's my sensitive side.
But he's in my, he has a lot of reasons to be annoyed about this business. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, he's been trashed quite a few times.
And undeservingly so. But although, see, this is the thing. This is what we never know about the business. We all jump to conclusions. Why does everyone so mean to good old JR? Then you look at my one experience when I saw him and I said, well, good old JR didn't seem like he's that good. Maybe it goes both ways. Maybe there's, and we never know. I could be wrong. It could just be that the McMahons, the way we imagine it, the McMahons just love trashing JR, making him feel bad, making fun of his Bell palsy. Maybe it's just like that.
Right.
But maybe it is more complicated than that. I don't know. But in that day when I met him, I just got the vibe like, this guy's not like his character. But whatever, not the end of the world. I hope I get to interview him and have a full wrestling with Rosenberg. And I would tell him that if I talked to him again. Like, I got to be honest, I met you. You didn't seem like good old JR. You seemed like a little stiffer around the edges.
You do have the tendency to actually pretty much say it.
I call it pretty close. Best experience, Mark Henry and M.V.P. lifting my wife and I and my family up in the chairs at our wedding.
That is so cool.
Can't beat that.
That is really, really cool.
Yeah.
How's MVP? Is he a real nice guy?
MVP is smart, cool, nice, awesome, well-traveled, just learned in general. Like, he's just, his experience in life is incredibly crazy.
He's in Japan right now.
He has been in Japan. I'm starting to think for the first time in a long time that we could see MVP again. One Wrestling exclusive? One Wrestling.com exclusive?
One Wrestling.com exclusive. I mean, I have been hearing rumblings on other websites. And
that's all based on nothing for the record.
No.
It's off the record. No. That, not what I just said. Mm-hmm. That stuff that you're saying,
right?
None of that stuff is reliable.
Okay.
Not in general.
I know.
But MVP's story, I spoke to him immediately after. The stuff that got out there was definitely all made up. But I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, based on actual conversations, I don't think anything has happened, but I think that there could be something that happens. And I'd be thrilled.
I would like to see it.
I think MVP was someone, when he was a heel, he was one of the most over heels in the last decade or so.
Absolutely.
People hated him.
I think he was more over as a babyface, though.
I thought the babyface was the beginning of the end for him.
Really?
I didn't think they knew what to do with him. And around the time they made him a babyface, and then they brought him to Raw, it just started to slide. I just felt like his character was built to be a heel, the cocky athlete. He was based on, my friend helped, MVP created his own character for the record. Not a lot of people know that. He built that character.
Did he? Okay.
My friend Andrew Goldstein used to write for his character, and really T.O. was what that character was based on.
Okay, I can see that.
And so he was really supposed to be this ultimate heel, and I just think it would have eventually worked big as a babyface, but I don't think they were done with him as a heel. I thought he should have went to Raw. There are a few things that should happen. He should have feuded with Triple H when Triple H went to SmackDown. I think they could have had a great run.
I think so too. He's really good in the ring, by the way.
He's a great guy. He's just great. And his run with Matt Hardy was one of the most fun. The tag team and then breakup was just amazing.
Right, I remember that.
So yeah, to make a really short question really long, great moment of my wedding. Love MVP. Love Mark Henry. Had a lot of great times with those guys, and together sometimes. We've got go to Texas last year when I was in Texas for South by Southwest. Me, my brother, Mark's family, and MVP all went out for barbecue, and
so
great people. Mark has a great family too, so love those guys.
And Mark does love his barbecue.
And listen, Mark doesn't just eat. Mark knows how to eat. He loves some food.
This is what I've heard.
Yes, the man loves
And actually, he bought me a big bag of barbecue one time.
He did.
Don't you remember that day he came down and he just had a big bag of barbecue? I was like, oh. Anyway, I'm on a diet now, ladies and
gentlemen. So no barbecue.
No more barbecue for Big Ray. But and really quickly before I jump into we're getting to close to the end here, but I'm having trouble with the Alberto Del Rio face change. And you see how you said that it was the beginning of the end for MVP? And I know Alberto Del Rio is getting big pops, but his character has been based on this cocky, smug, rich, arrogant person who used to mishandle and basically take advantage of his ring announcer. And now he'll fight a 7'5" giant, to defend this guy. I mean, how do you think that's going to actually play out?
That's a really good point. I mean, you have a character. The Del Rio he's the rich aristocrat, right? That is what the character is.
That is who he is.
Him becoming that guy is a babyface. I mean, Jesus said it. A rich man could no sooner get into heaven than whatever. The rich are not generally babyfaces. That's just not how it works. It's nature. Especially the wrestling fan, we're a common audience. We're regular people. We just like to, we're not rooting for $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase.
Right.
So you make a great point.
Good point.
I do think that you're right. The pops are there now.
Okay.
But let's be honest. They've given him every way to pop. They had him take the belt off of the Big Show.
Okay.
Anytime you take the belt off a giant, you're going to end up getting a nice pop.
Right.
They put him in a situation to save Ricardo where everyone gets excited. But as time goes on, you start looking at it like, wow, what changed with this guy? Wow, how is he? And now Brett's like, oh, you're the Canadian Bret Hart.
Was it the Mexican Bret Hart?
Whatever, exactly. He's the Canadian Bret Hart.
He's the Canadian Alberto Del Rio.
Exactly.
That was, to me, and I said it in my Royal Rumble recap, it was probably one of the weirdest, most awkward moments between two characters. It just didn't, it was just to give him a rub, Yeah. And it didn't make sense. But anyway.
Yeah, to answer your question, I don't know how that ends up. And it does. But the weirdest thing is, I was at the pay-per-view, I guess TLC, right before, the day before or the week before the change.
Okay.
And he's in this tag match with a 3-man band. And we're all sitting around watching. And me and my buddy Goldstein, we say to each other, we're like, oh man, look at Del Rio. He's getting out of here. He was miserable.
Right.
And I was like, so I thought he was just going to be done. And I really wonder what happened behind the scenes. Because you don't put someone in that match right as you're about to turn the babyface unless they literally put him in the doghouse and he literally maybe threatened to leave. And they're like, you know what? And somehow it came to an agreement that, like, we're going to give you a really big push. It just seems so crazy to me that it seemed like he was being phased out. And then all of a sudden, title, out of nowhere.
I mean, just really thinking about it, I mean, the whole Sin Cara thing didn't work out. And they really needed that next big Mexican superstar. Everybody knows Rey Mysterio's getting close to the end of his career. I mean, he looked great actually last night on SmackDown, but I think they need that next huge Mexican superstar. And I mean, I've watched Triple A wrestling and I've watched some of the Mexican wrestling, and I really don't see anybody,
They're jumping out as the next star.
Right.
I think one thing that's annoying people though is how much they're pandering to the Latino community.
Right.
It's like the Mexican colors everywhere. It's like, listen.
Well, I'm Latino. I mean.
So do you pop when you see the Mexican flag everywhere? You're Puerto Rican.
I'm Puerto Rican. I mean,
Puerto Ricans don't pop for the Mexican flag.
I do care. I mean, but nah.
So it's just too much.
Yeah.
Your viewers aren't stupid. They
Right,
know he's
exactly.
Mexican.
Exactly.
They know he's Mexican. So all he has to do is be a regular wrestler.
Right.
His name's Alberto Del Rio.
Exactly.
We get it. We get it.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on. A question I really wanted to ask you. Besides, and again, I'm going to go back to the interview with Jerry the King Lawler. Now, we know that was one of the most shocking, horrific moments in wrestling history to see the King have to go through what he did that day. And I know we had like tweeted each other, and you didn't even know what happened. And I think you had tried to touch base with Mark Henry, and he didn't know what happened. Mm-hmm. That was obviously, to me, one of the most shocking moments in wrestling. But to turn a really sad question into a fun question, what to you is probably the most shocking, work-wise, most shocking thing that ever happened in wrestling that had you saying, OMG, like, oh my God. Work-wise.
In recent years, those two moments that I enjoyed, and I'm talking about the last 5 years. I want to try to not go back all the way. Let's try to focus on, because I was a kid, the Ricky's throat thing was pretty big. The Ricky the Dragon Steamboat throat was big. But in recent years, obviously, Summer of Punk, CM Punk's promo, I was with my wife, and I was like, honey, you have to watch. What's he doing? This is amazing. He's saying real stuff right now. He's saying real stuff.
He's saying what we were thinking.
So that was amazing. And I think, shockingly, because the way it played out, no one mentions it anymore.
Okay.
The appearance of Nexus, I thought was...
Oh, Nexus, yeah.
It only lasted for a month that I was interested, but that first day was when they pulled up the mats and did all that stuff. I thought that was awesome.
It actually had me... I didn't cry.
You didn't... Whew, good. There was no reason to cry.
Because I cry a lot.
Well, was it because Justin Roberts got choked with the tie?
Dude, actually, you know what? Now to come think of it, I mean, in retrospect, the Nexus could have been something really special. But anyway, it is. It's
called the Shield. So
let's move on.
Don't get me wrong. I like the Shield a lot, but it did just happen a few years ago. It's not that different.
All right. So my next question, we're going to actually kind of go through these questions really quickly. We're going to do like a rapid fire type thing. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Give me short answers, and some of them it's going to be hard.
I'll do my best.
It'll be like a game show. Aren't you the host of a game show?
I was the host of Hip Hop Squares. Hopefully, still am the host of Hip Hop Squares.
I hope so. It's actually really cool.
Damn good show. MTV2.
MTV2.
So hopefully it comes
no
back.
doubt. Okay, here we go. You ready? All right. What do you think of wrestling as it is right now?
I think wrestling is pretty good right now. There are times when it sucks, and you're still waiting for that period where Vince always shakes things up. That's one thing you can count on. I'm waiting for the next shakeup. I'm excited to see what it is. I was really bored 4 months ago. It's WrestleMania season, so it's good. It's always good in WrestleMania season.
How do you think TNA can compete with the WWE?
TNA needs to continue to do some of the things they've been doing, but continue to promote guys who really have a chance to be stars and not just promote washed-up WWE guys. And I think that's a big part of the business. And I know they don't have the money for it, but it's live touring. It's making the show live and traveling.
Well, they're going touring
for live shows.
Live shows. Oh, if you guys didn't know, this past week on TNA Impact, Dixie Carter made an announcement that TNA will now go on the road starting March.
Wait, meaning Impact will be live every week?
Impact. Well, this is what I get. It may be a tape show. I'm not really sure. But I know
they're doing the Impact show, not house shows. They're recording Impact.
They're recording Impact, or they'll have live show. I don't know yet 100%. Dixie wasn't really clear.
Okay,
it's live, but it's going on the road.
So my point is, if that's true, that's huge.
Okay.
It's not just house shows. They need to record in other venues. You can't look at the same 500 fans or whatever it is in the Impact Zone. I've been there. It doesn't feel that exciting when you're there. They need more.
Fair enough. All right, now I have a friend. His name is Tim Rivera. You can follow him. On Big Ray's Wrestling Show, I always try to plug Twitter handles. What's your Twitter handle, by the way, if they want to follow you?
At Rosenberg Radio.
I'm going to post it right down here.
Perfect.
At Rosenberg Radio. Right down
That's
there.
it.
All right. So Tim actually wrote me 3 really interesting questions. I'm going to ask you 2 of them.
At Dat Dude Tim.
At Dat underscore. What is it? Underscore Dat. Can you?
Dat _dude _Tim.
Thank you.
Dat Dude Tim.
Thank you. It takes a professional to do this. All right, so he asked me 2 really good questions, and I'm going to ask you to answer them as quick and as give a straightforward answer. What do you feel the long-term impact of social media will have on wrestling now going forward into the future?
Well, a lot. I mean, the same way the internet has affected wrestling a lot in terms of how much information spreads. You already have now information that spreads online, but now with social media it spreads so much faster. So it affects, I don't know, it affects a lot. I mean, you really have to be much more protective. It's funny because the business has been opening up more and more and more and more.
Right.
But you can't open up to the point that everyone knows everything's going to happen, or I'm not going to watch the show. Right. So you have to be very mindful. I think it will. I'm curious to know a time that will happen when a major event gets completely spoiled because of social media, and they end up having to really scrap because of that. So I don't know exactly what the impact will be, but there is an impact.
Okay. And he asked me a second question. I think this is actually a pretty cool question. I've thought about this question actually once or twice in my life. What hip-hop persona, you being a hip-hop DJ, right? What hip-hop persona, past or present, would have made a great mouthpiece, face or heel?
Well, the obvious answer, of course, is me.
Really?
Present hip-hop persona myself.
Okay.
And I would make a great babyface or heel, though I tend to think heel better, just because people would hate on me when I show up for no reason. They're like, who is this guy?
Okay.
But I'd be fantastic. Who else would be really good? Because the hard part is it's not just about them having personality, but then them actually having that personality translate to having a lot of energy. Because, Snoop's a great babyface in theory, but then when you see him on camera, Snoop's a little low-key.
How about Busta Rhymes?
Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes could have been good. Yeah, as almost evil. As almost either. Look.
Hey, this is I don't know if you can see.
There you can see his head. There he is. Bear the dog. Hi, bud.
That's Bear.
He's also a champion.
Bear is a champion. Bear is actually licking my armpit right now.
There you go. I love it.
That's all right.
He's not the smartest guy. Who else? I'm not doing a good job with this question.
Flavor Flav?
No, he's too crazy. He's got someone who really speaks passionately about something.
Oh,
I think Game could be a great babyface or heel.
Game.
And he's huge.
And he has
6'5".
He has a good look.
Yeah, I think Game could be actually pretty interesting.
Interesting. Not the Game, Triple H. Game the rapper.
Yeah, Game the rapper. I'll think on more of that. That is a great question. Thanks, that dude Tim.
That dude Tim Rivera.
Thank you.
Follow me on Twitter at Big Ray Show. Again, this is Big Ray's Wrestling Show. We're winding down this interview with Peter Rosenberg of Hot 97.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. Thanks for coming, Pete, by the way.
Hey, thank you.
I appreciate it.
No, it's been fun. I love talking wrestling.
All right, so now, last but not least, WrestleMania 29 is right around the corner.
Around the corner, and it's coming right here to the New York City area.
New York City, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, anyway. What, if you were booking the show, you're booking the show now. You're Vince McMahon. You're fired. You're Vince McMahon. You're booking the show. What would you like to see for this year's WrestleMania 29? And my last question, should WrestleMania 30 be at Madison Square Garden?
If I'm booking WrestleMania 29, I book Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker. That's a match that I want to see. Chris Jericho versus The Undertaker. Amazing. I've already seen Chris Jericho have a great program with Dolph Ziggler. Does everyone not remember? It happened right before Jericho left.
True. So
Jericho already gave Ziggler the rub. That happened. It was cool. It was great. Ziggler's amazing. But I would love to see that match. I have no interest in Rock Cena again.
Neither do I. Sorry.
Mostly because it's not even their fault. It just happened, and you don't believe there's actually a real storyline there. It doesn't feel like there's a real storyline you care about. So, if I had my druthers, I would then go. This gets kind of complicated. I originally would have said I wanted to see Rock Punk. But now we saw Rock Punk, and no one was in love with Rock Punk.
Right.
So, I think that sort of more makes you lean towards Rock Brock. Rock Brock would be a lot of fun, and there's a lot there, right? And you have two guys who are kind of part-timers going against each other, so no one gets buried who's a full-timer, which I really like. So, Undertaker Jericho.
Awesome.
Rock Brock.
Awesome.
If you want a great match, truth be told,
we want great matches.
That is the point. There's a way, I don't know how you would have gotten there, but in terms of, I was always waiting to see the match truly happen. And if I recall it, we never got it the way it should have happened. CM Punk, Triple H. I think CM Punk and Triple H can work a great match. I love the way they look physically in the ring.
Triple H, I think, can work with anybody also.
He can. He's fantastic. But and Punk's credible with him. And I think with the whole McMahon, the way Punk's now has Punk, it's wide open for him to go with the McMahon family. He hates them. They restarted the match. They doomed him.
Right.
He should attack Vince. He should attack everyone. Demand go until he gets trouble. I mean, the only thing that would be better is if Shane and Matt came back, but that's not going to happen.
Oh, man.
So let's say that may be for 30.
Yeah,
maybe that's for 30.
Absolutely.
So I think CM Punk Triple H would be very cool. And the question is, we just named all these guys, and now John Cena has no match, and we just saw him go with Ziggler 19 times in a row.
I got to be honest with you, I'm so over John Cena.
I feel I am too in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I don't discredit him in any way.
No, absolutely not.
I think John is really great at a lot of things. The problem is he's been so overused that it's hard for us as fans to be excited about things that he does.
Right.
You know, when we were kids, I only saw Hulk Hogan like once a month.
If that.
You see John Cena every week for the last 6 years. It's just not the same anymore. So, or after all those matches that I did, who would be left to potentially put Cena in a match with? Oh! The returning Mark Henry. How about that?
Let me tell you something.
The heel Mark Henry comes and destroys John Cena. They've never had a full program.
I am so hoping Mark Henry comes back soon. Mark Henry, if you get a chance to watch this, I've been dying for you to come back to wrestling TV because you're sorely missed. I mean,
I don't think they even know how big a pop he's gonna get when he comes back. Oh, the business has missed it. It's been a long time, and I'm praying it's by elimination.
But is it gonna be? You think he's better off as a heel or babyface? Heel. Mark Henry
has to. He's a heel. That's what he is.
You know what? I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. I'm gonna say when Mark Henry comes back, he will regain the World Heavyweight Championship.
If they're smart. But let's be honest. Why did they decide to cool Mark Henry down last time when he had the best run of his life? And I think during the Hall of Pain period, I think Mark Henry was the number one guy in the company. No question about it. Best on the mic. He was doing everything. I think he was incredible.
Very underrated.
Incredible.
Very underrated. I mean, Mark Henry can actually. He can make you can feel his anger with one look.
Oh, 100%. You can see kids get scared the way they used to.
With one look.
So, I'm going to put that match in there, too. I'm going to go...
Mm-hmm.
Wait, who did that... it leaves people out. But you can go... Oh, here you go. Taker, Jericho.
Okay.
CM Punk, Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena, Mark Henry. Alberto Del Rio.
Okay.
Dolph Ziggler.
Ooh. Wait, heel Ziggler or
heel Ziggler, face Del Rio.
Face. Okay.
Cashes in and goes for Del Rio's title.
That'll be okay. I can see that.
Because they're obviously not letting him get over on the big guys on Raw.
Right.
So
he did cash in the SmackDown suitcase. So
that's
the only title he can go for.
Is that true?
Unfortunately.
Or what do you mean?
Well, there was John Cena. If you remember at the beginning of the year, he cashed in the Raw suitcase and he didn't win the title. That's where the whole Cena. You know,
wait, I'm speaking for example. At Money in the Bank, they did two.
They did two.
They did SmackDown suitcase. That's why it's the blue suitcase.
Right, the blue suitcase and the red suitcase. I wasn't a big fan of that, by the way.
Anyways, I got some work on my booking to do, but that's what I'm looking at right now. Oh, and I really only say all of this because I just don't like where it ended up going, and I didn't want it to be Rock Cena again. I just didn't want to go there again.
But you're looking forward to WrestleMania 29.
Oh, and I left out Ryback too. Ryback Big Show. There you go. Ryback Big Show.
Oh my God, that would. Will the ring contain them? We don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Big Ray's Wrestling Show. You guys know, I always say this. I would do this for a living, but if I can't, I would do it anyway. Why? Because I love talking wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Big Ray's Wrestling Show for OneWrestling.com. You can find us here at YouTube /OneWrestling Video. Follow me on Twitter at Big Ray Show. Follow Peter on Twitter.
Rosenberg Radio.
Peter, thank you so much, dude.
And look for lots of my WrestleMania coverage coming soon, plus all new Wrestling with Rosenberg.
Guys, check out Wrestling with Rosenberg on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch you next time. Peace. Wrestling.com is the best place to get your wrestling news in all the cyberspace. When Wrestling.com is the best place to get your wrestling news in all the cyberspace. 1.